Greetings, Healthy Voice community. So nice to be with you. Thanks for pressing play and listening to this. This podcast is being released during a week where I've devoted the whole week on my Substack to words, language, and the power that these individual sounds have. And I'm recording this a little bit before the week that I will release this. And one of the reasons I was inspired to make this recording right now is because I feel that a lot of people, a lot of you already understand the power of words. You are already at that point where you get it. And I don't really have to convince any of you. There are still a lot of people who are in denial of this, who will not admit or won't even investigate the power that language has. There are a lot of people who want to pretend like you can't measure the vibrations of everything, that words don't have a frequency pattern, much like sound, much like pitch. Well, words are a pitch, aren't they? But see, a word has the emotional charge behind it as well. Whatever it is you associate with that word will give you a certain charge. Now, here's something that I've observed whenever I've traveled, and I'm not like a great world traveler, but I have traveled a bit more than the average American, and I've been to different countries where the language is not English. I myself am not fluent in anything. I can kind of speak a kindergarten level Spanish where I can kind of get by, but it's quite difficult for me. And I don't have any emotional attachment to any of the words because I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. And I always find it really interesting when I'm in, especially a Spanish-speaking country, which is where I've traveled, done most of my travels to different types of countries where Spanish is the primary language. And so I've gotten to be in that environment many times. Also in LA, I'm around a lot of Spanish speakers. And I've noticed that I feel very different when I try to speak Spanish or when I'm around other people who speak Spanish. And I've noticed that while not only do I feel different because of the frequencies of the language, the culture that is embedded into each and every word, each and every sound, I also have a certain emotional detachment from the words. Whereas with English, I've been speaking it my whole life. Certain words have been used as weapons, not just towards me, but towards other people. I have had a second-hand feeling of disturbance when I've heard these words be used against others, when I've had certain words be used against me on an ongoing basis. The vibration behind that word will carry a layer of something difficult and negative for me. And so when I hear the words, I have to work through a series of emotions in order to neutralize the vibration that comes through. Whereas with a foreign language, with Spanish or Italian, which I'm always trying to learn both of these languages, I'm very bad at them, but I'm always making an effort. But what I've noticed is that that emotional weight, that historical weight, it doesn't exist. And it's these experiences that have made me really believe strongly in the emotional power that words have, the vibrations behind them. Now, some people argue that if you don't have an emotional connection to certain words, that the power still exists. That might be true. I'm on the fence about whether I believe that or not. I'm open to it being true, but I feel that it really makes a difference when you have your own emotional history behind a word, or if the sound of a word, like I'm very interested in puns or homophones, words that sound alike but have different meanings, where you might use a word regularly to mean one thing, but when you explore the history of that same sounding word, you find it has a very sinister background. Like, for example, the word I use a lot to describe is raise. Whenever somebody says that they've been raised by so-and-so, or they were raised in fill in the blank, your region, your country, your state, as opposed to saying, I was brought up by, or I was brought up in California or whatever. It's like, Is it really a big deal what the difference is? I don't know if it's really a big deal. However, when I went to go look up the word raise, I kept hearing the pun of raising, like a building, raising a building to the ground or raising a city. Uh, a fire raised the city to the ground. I kept hearing that word and it was bothering me. And so I decided to look up the etymology of the word raise, RAISE. And I realized that the word itself was used specifically to describe the dynamic between the slave masters and their enslaved population in the American South. And this word, to be raised by somebody, was only used in the American South up until a certain point. And I found this very disturbing, but also it backed up an intuition that I had. And so that's why I wanted to do a whole week. I wanted to devote 7 days to my Substack of word magic and the power of words, because I think that this is an important piece of the puzzle in the path that we're all on when it comes to our voice. We can do the technique. We can learn to control our nervous system with our breath support, with our vocal technique. We can learn how to neutralize our emotions with our intention. And then if you want to take it to the next level, like where you're really creating your life, you got to go to the words. And you have to start thinking about the words that you're using. And that's why I wanted to devote a whole week to this. Now, a few weeks ago in my Healthy Voice community, I did, every week I do a theme of activities, daily activities that are intended to be fun and engaging, get the community communicating together, but also with the intention of working on your voice. So there was this one week where I did magic spells. And I did these magic spells. They were basically affirmations written in the style of a Harry Potter-like spell. And so it was meant to be fun. And it was also meant to be affirming and empowering, and to use this idea that words carry vibrations. And the way you use words absolutely has power. I actually do believe this. I don't practice witchcraft or anything. I'm not like into spellcraft like I know some people are. But I will say this. I think everything is witchcraft. I don't believe in like practicing. I'm not into practicing witchcraft, but I believe that everything matters. Like I think that even that what I just said, everything matters. Matter is another homophone. Matter is Anyway, I'm not going to go on a tangent. If you heard what I heard, you know what I'm talking about. Your words matter. Your words become matter. I do believe this. And that's basically what spellcraft is. But I don't really get into the whole ritual stuff that other people get into. I don't have anything against it. And I actually think it's powerful and it works. But for me, I'm more of like my attitude is my whole life is a magic spell. My whole life and the world I live in is embedded with witchcraft. The language that I was brought up to speak has magic spells embedded into it. And part of the mystery of life and this hero's journey of becoming a whole, grounded human being is figuring out where the manipulations lie. Where are the magic spells that are working against me so that I can learn how to create my own magic and create my own path? And so with that said, I just thought it would be really fun to do a magic spells week. And it was interesting. I was curious to see how it would play out because I had a feeling that it would maybe turn some people off. And I was not, it's not like I was wanting to do that. I never want to offend anybody. I don't enjoy offending people in any way. And I actually feel bad when that happens because it's not my intention. And I'm very sensitive to other people's feelings. But I've also come far enough in my path to be okay if I do offend people. I know that my intentions are never to hurt people or offend people. And sometimes you can offend people just by being yourself, like just being honest about who you are and what you think is a worthy cause or a worthy goal. And so I was curious to see if I would lose anybody. Well, I'm happy to report I didn't lose anybody in the private community, but one person on my YouTube, when they saw the post where I was promoting the Magic Spells Week, basically said in her comment that she would be leaving, like unfollowing me or something like that. And it was interesting to watch my own reaction. I had like an immediate reaction of, no, I didn't mean it like that. I wanted to fix it, but I stopped myself because I've gotten to this point. Like I said, I've gotten to this point in my path where I recognize that my intentions are only to be helpful, and that I can't please everybody, and that some people have a natural fear of anything that has the word magic in it or spells, where, as I said a few moments ago, I think this whole world operates by way of something like witchcraft, something like magic. I think manipulation is everywhere. I think that programming is happening on so many levels of our existence, and part of our path, part of our own hero's journey is to figure out where these manipulations are taking place and figure out how to combat them. But we have to be smart about it. And I think that fearing this magic is essentially fearing your own personal power. Because during Magic Spells Week, every single magic spell was really a positive affirmation, which is a term that we accept as totally legitimate. And the same people who fear the words magic spell would be perfectly okay with a positive affirmation. Now, why is that? They are the same thing. There is no difference between a magic spell and an affirmation. They both use the power of words. They both craft, there's another pun there, they both craft an organized pattern of words together. They stream a bunch of sentences together with the intention of creating a vibration that puts a thought into reality. It's an attempt to control reality. And that's essentially what both of these things are. The reason I know all this is I don't practice witchcraft. I don't practice any of that stuff. And I don't have any judgment against people who do. Like, I don't have anything negative to say about people who do. But I have a background in religious studies, where in college I decided I was going to minor in religious studies. And I basically never stopped. After I finished college, my first job offer as a teacher was at an Orthodox Jewish girls' high school. And then I got hired at the same time to work part-time at the Kabbalah Children's Academy. And so I saw this as an amazing opportunity to continue my education while getting paid. And so I got to live among the Orthodox Jews for like 6 years. I worked in their community. I taught their children. I taught them privately. I was in their homes. And the same thing with the Kabbalah Center people, which are very different from the Orthodox. And I got to learn the differences between the two cultures, the two belief systems, while also learning a lot about the nuanced elements of Jewish belief. And it was fascinating. And I never once felt like I'm becoming Jewish. Never. Like, that's the thing about being a student of religious studies, is that you can study other religions and you can borrow from them. You can learn some of their ideas and think that makes a lot of sense to me, and you can adopt it into your own belief system. But most of the time, it's really just observing and learning, and it's really interesting. And so about 7 years ago, I developed a fascination with the Western esoteric religions. And witchcraft is part of that. And so I spent a little bit of time learning about it, purely from an academic standpoint. And so I've learned a lot about how language is used in witchcraft and magical systems. And I don't have to be part of those belief systems in order to appreciate some of the things that they know. Some of the information that they carry makes a lot of sense. And I see it played out in the rest of society. And I see it all the time. I see it in different types of media. I even see it in individuals who don't realize they're doing it. They don't realize that they're perpetuating a certain type of programming because they themselves are so deep into the programming that they don't realize that they're actually just doing the same thing that the higher ups want them to do. I really don't have a lot of negative judgments about most people. You really have to be a very evil kind of person for me to have a negative feeling about. Most people, I feel like I can understand where they're coming from, even if I find their behaviors frustrating or disturbing or part of the problem. And then I just kind of step back and I go, well, that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing, because I want to reach the people who understand this stuff and who want to become very empowered and feel like they have some kind of control over their lives. And I do personally believe that it starts with the voice. And that is why I started the Healthy Voice. And that's also why I decided to devote a whole week to language on my Substack. And so that's why I wanted to mention this in my voice note. And I hope you'll go over to Substack and check out those articles. I know that the people who need to read this will find it, and probably a lot of you are already aware of this stuff. And so maybe this will just kind of spark your imagination, make you a little more creative in how you use language with your voice, with your healthy, unique voice, and create more magic in your life, have a little bit more control over the reality that you create. So if this was interesting, please leave a comment and check out all the offerings that I have. I have a private community, the Healthy Voice community. I have a 7-week course called the Voice Liberation Method. But at the time of this recording, I have not yet launched my sound healing course, but I know that I will be doing a pre-launch. And so I don't know if I have launched that by the time I publish this voice note. So look out for it if I have not. And if I have, then sign up for that course. And in the near future, you can look forward to a part 2 of the Voice Liberation Method, where we will be doing shadow work. We will be going deep into the negative patterns that are playing on a loop in your psyche. And we are going to use your voice to change the song. We are going to change the tuning to be something more optimistic and powerful in a positive way, so that you can move past these negative patterns that keep pulling you back into negative realities, so that you can take charge of your life. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you guys later.